Good evening, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to another episode of the Cover One Film Room. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Prohaska. Joining me tonight is Mr. Kendall Mursky. Kendall, as the people watching right now will have noticed, the people listening won't because they can only hear right now, but Eric Turner has stabbed us in the back once again and left us to fend for ourselves. And here we are, just the two of us, solo duo. I was going to say solo dolo, but that's not accurate.
Yeah.
Just here, fending for ourselves. I can't believe he left us high and dry again. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I guess he's just got better things to do. I guess he's not a film junkie anymore. Something's happening, man. Something's
slacking.
happening.
I'm disappointed in him with his whole family and job. No, but we miss him. He's fantastic, but he won't be here with us tonight on this episode. So Kendall, you and I are riding again as the dynamic duo as we dive into a world here of linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. And to give everybody who's, listening to this episode and watching this episode some insight into what we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to be talking about the linebacker position. I hope you guessed that, for the Buffalo Bills. But we're going to talk about why the type of player is so important for that individual position. We're going to talk about skill set. We're going to talk about traits. We're going to talk about scheme fit and how that trumps overall ranking or overall prospect grading in terms of how we evaluated this position. So the linebackers that we've chosen to break down tonight in tonight's episode, they range in terms of where they can be found in the draft, but they all fit somehow, some way based on scheme fit, trait, or skill set. Maybe not one of the top two, but we wanted to show him because he's fantastic and maybe juxtapose him with the guy who's on the cover of tonight's episode. And we also know that everybody watching live with us is tremendously important to this show. And we love the live chat. So if you're here live, people have already been sounding off a little bit. Someone sounded off at 6:12, 48 minutes before we even went live. We want to hear your comments, questions, thoughts, concerns about anything, really. Yes, Davis in the chat. Sorry, I got excited there. Yes, we will be doing some Leo Chenal tonight. We're going to be talking about, we're not going to be showing film of Chad Muma, but we're going to be talking about him to a degree because he's a hot topic for a lot of people. But we want to hear your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, ideologies, philosophies, maxims, theorems, all that kind of stuff in the chat. What do you like about the prospects we're showing? Who are some players that you guys have had your eyes on? And as always, please drop a like. If you're here now, drop a like. If you're watching later, drop a like. If you're listening later, whatever have you. Every single ounce of support is tremendously appreciated by us. And I say it on Disguised Coverage. I say it here. I know it's corny, but you'd be surprised how much the likes go towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears and viewers and all that stuff, as do the rates and reviews and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. So we appreciate you guys tremendously, and thank you to everybody riding with us live. We know more people are going to be piling in, so we're excited for tonight's episode. And as I mentioned, Kendall, I'm going to put the banner up there, so that way it's also easier for you to do timestamps later. The importance of skill set and scheme fit. So you and I had talked offline before this episode and in preparation for this episode. And to give everybody a little peek behind the curtain here, Kendall and I, both of us have Nakobe Dean as linebacker 1. It's close. Devin Lloyd is fantastic, right? He's linebacker 2. But both of us have Nakobe Dean as linebacker 1. But neither of us, if given the choice for the Bills to be able to take the first linebacker off the board, neither of us would take Nakobe Dean. We would both take Devin Lloyd. And that's because of skill set and scheme fit. Kendall, why don't you start to walk people through our thought process behind that and why we would take Lloyd and the importance of skill set and scheme fit?
The first thing, I don't want to put too much importance on this because I don't think it, as someone who's 5'6", I don't like putting a lot of importance on this.
On the physical, the frame and the stature and size. Yeah.
But Nakobe Dean isn't even 6 feet tall. And I think a lot of NFL teams struggle to think about a Mike linebacker who is sub 6 feet tall. That it's a real threshold that has to be crossed. It is that minimum where if you are below 6 feet, sometimes teams won't even look at you. And
he's got short arms.
He does. He does have shorter. Actually, it's funny. Chenal has shorter arms, but we'll get there. Anyways, yeah, I think that's like a huge thing where it's like sometimes just literally measurables can take you off someone's board. And given the length and the height and what we do in zone and how Edmunds is in the middle of this defense, it begs the question, how much does Dean really fit as a middle linebacker
Mm.
in this defense? But he's got those traits, the way he plays, the energy he plays with, the range, the speed, the closing ability, all of that stuff. It's like, maybe we could overlook that kind of thing, but you never
Mm.
know. Like we talk about with Roger McCreary, like, is he off the table because of the short arms? Because he doesn't pass that threshold of 30-inch arms. So you never know. That's definitely the first part to it. But I feel like there are other parts to it where does he have the take on ability, especially with short arms and that
Mm.
shed ability to get in the right run gap and then shed and make a play because we know how much Edmunds is asked to two gap at the second level. And then he's a great blitzer, but the Bills don't blitz a lot.
That's a huge piece. Like the game that Nakobe Dean has, I love it. He's a bullet.
Yeah.
He's a terrific blitzer. He's got specific skill sets or a specific skill set and specific traits that work well for him. But the easiest way to talk about Nakobe Dean, like he's just a good football player. He's smart as hell. He understands the game. He's great in preparation. He's great in recognition pre-snap and post-snap. His processing ability, in addition to being a good athlete and playing fast from a physical standpoint, and we're going to be highlighting some of these things in the film for Nakobe Dean a little later in this episode. But Dean just he plays fast physically, but he also processes fast, which allows him to play even faster. His mental game and everything you get from a quarterback of the defense type, proverbial corniness and the leader on the field and off the field, all that kind of stuff. He's so great in so many ways. But you hit on it, like one of his best attributes and skill set pieces is his ability to blitz, his timing on stunts, his ability to function as the spiker and as the looper, to be the guy designed to mug up things and cause chaos, or function as the guy to get to the QB. He does well in both those roles. He can blitz from a variety of alignments. And then when it comes to coverage, a lot of his strength lies in his ability to cover in man for guys coming out of the backfield.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of pattern matching for what's expected of him. And then you combine that with his overall size in terms of frame, his arm length, and you add it all together with what's expected of a linebacker in the Buffalo Bills defense, where you're in a nickel defense. You have to be able to go sideline to sideline. You have to be able to function in the passing game. You have to be able to function coming forward. Like you said, you're not going to blitz a lot. And that's, I love Nakobe Dean. And if the Bills took Nakobe Dean, I kind of wouldn't be upset.
Right.
But I mean, are you really setting up a guy for success if one of his best things you're not really going to use? Like one of his best things is his blitzing ability. The Bills don't blitz their linebackers like that. And I don't think he's the type of guy, no disrespect to him, I don't know if anybody is this, he's not the type of guy where you bring him in and then you philosophically change your defense.
Right.
And that's what's so important about skill set and scheme fit. And I also think people don't think about this a lot. I think people a lot of times see somebody and they're like, oh, I love this guy. Look at the way he plays. And it's like, yeah, but your team doesn't play like that, so they're not going to take him.
Yeah, it's really tough with Dean because he is really great on tape. Like everything he does is so good, like you said, but those areas that he is great don't necessarily translate to what the Bills need to do. And like you said, that pattern matching stuff in zone, like he does a great job carrying dudes in man and getting up the field, and he shows that range, and then matching with running backs out of the backfield. Like he shows the ability to stick with guys and stay sticky, I guess, in coverage in man situations because he just has that athleticism. But that processing that he has, it doesn't necessarily show a lot in zone. It shows itself more in those, I guess, close quarters situations. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like when the field of vision is reduced and he just has to make quick split second decisions when he's blitzing or when he's run filling, stuff like that. Like he's great in those areas. And when he's, in that long speed area where he has to stick with people on carrying routes up the seam and stuff like that, he can do it. But if you're asking him to do it in man and he has to process, oh, do I carry this guy up the seam or do I stick with this this intermediate dig because I see it coming on the backside of this play. That's the kind of thing where Edmunds, while obviously he could get better at that, that's not necessarily a strong suit for Dean either. So that's kind of where you start to shift your attention. Is Devin Lloyd a better fit for this defense? And I think we both agree that he is for a lot of reasons on top of just pure measurables, but also in terms of skill set.
I don't think it gets talked about enough in football, the importance of scheme fit and skill set. And like you mentioned it, right? Like, so say I'm just making this up as a hypothetical. And then there's a question in the chat that we're going to get to before we dive into some film, because it's very spicy. But you've got a guy in Nakobe Dean. So let's just make up this hypothetical, right? Tremaine Edmunds gets traded, because that's part of it, right? We've heard the rumors that the Bills are considering trading a veteran, and we know the idea of, okay, you got Dawson Knox, you've got Ed Oliver, you've got Tremaine Edmunds, you know, you got the Diggs extension coming, you got all these guys you potentially have to pay. What does Tremaine Edmunds' contract look like? Is he odd man out? Yada, 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 so on and so forth. Say Tremaine Edmunds gets traded and you bring in Nakobe Dean. Okay. If he steps into Tremaine Edmunds' role, one, I don't think he's as good in pattern matching as Tremaine Edmunds is. Two, because of his difference in stature, I hate going to the physical as well. I hate being like, well, this guy's not going to be as good because he's smaller. But Tremaine Edmunds' length and size, the fact that he's a human pterodactyl in the middle of the field is a large reason of why the Bills are strong in the middle of the field and why he's a deterrent in pass coverage, despite the fact that some people want to tell you he was horrible in pass coverage. But putting Nakobe Dean into that world, you're not setting him up for success. You don't want to see Nakobe Dean dropping into coverage and carrying seam routes from wide receivers and carrying receivers and tight ends up the field. You don't want to see him do that. You want to see him living around the line of scrimmage as a bullet, sideline to sideline and moving forward. You want him to be an absolute chaos creator. It's funny, like I said, like people don't consider it in football, but it's similar to like baseball. You wouldn't take someone who's a great outfielder and sign him and be like, well, we're going to put him at third base. What? Why? Well, he's super fast and he's a great baseball player and he's got a great glove and he's got an awesome arm, but he's a great outfielder. Why are you putting him at third base? Has he ever played third base? Yeah, when he was in like Little League. What? And every once in a while in batting practice, he takes some reps at third just to, mess around. What? Like, why would you do that? But in football, I think people don't think about that. I think people think, well, a corner's a corner. A linebacker's a linebacker. I also always think to scheme fit. I remember back when the Eagles made all those moves when they were the Dream Team Eagles and they signed Nnamdi Asomugha. Man coverage all day. They brought him into Philly and they tried to make him play zone, and he was not so good in the zone. And why? Because he's a man coverage corner. He's used to getting up in dudes' kitchens and rocking it. And instead, they were making him play off and bail, and he wasn't comfortable in that. And you took a guy who was good at A and you tried to put him into a B role, and that doesn't work all the time. And that's why scheme fit and skill set are so important. And that was the impetus for a lot of things in tonight's episode and this conversation as a whole. But Kendall, the chat's been going back and forth on this question, and I wanted to bring it up. So Taylor posed the question, what if Tremaine Edmunds stays and Matt Milano goes? And I want to bring up some other comments from Taylor. One, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing right now. I'm just bringing it up because this is Taylor's thought and I want to string it all together. But he follows that up by saying Milano is easier to replace, and then talks about some dead money. Follows it up again with Milano isn't our best linebacker. So Kendall, I want to get your thoughts on that. Who is the Bills' best linebacker right now? And what if, forget contracts and all that kind of stuff. Let's play the hypothetical game. I mean, contracts, I think, put a kibosh on the whole conversation.
Right.
But what if Tremaine Edmunds is the one who stays and Matt Milano is the one that goes? Is Milano our best linebacker? What are your thoughts on all this? I have some thoughts, but I want to hear yours first.
Honestly, that would be wild. Like, I haven't even thought about that, if Milano would be the one to leave. I agree to an extent that Milano is easier to replace. It's easier to find wills out there in the draft. It's far easier to find wills. Like, the more linebackers I went through, I was like, nah, this guy's a will. Nah, that guy's a will. I don't think that guy could hold up at Mike.
I'd be much more comfortable taking Nakobe Dean if it was to replace Matt Milano instead of replacing Tremaine Edmunds. I mean, I would still prefer Milano way more, but I could get more comfortable with it because of the role. Continue. I'm sorry.
No, so it's really tough for me to actually answer like who the better linebacker is, though, because they're asked to do different things. I think I see them both at the same level. In all honesty,
Mm,
I really can't differentiate one from the other because they do different things. They're asked to do different things. They're both good at what they do, and in some areas they're great at what they do, and in other areas they could use some improvement. I mean, you look at Milano, and I mean, Milano's great at playing downhill and being that bullet, like you say, where he's just being aggressive and he's kind of the penetrator, while Edmunds is the occupier in some regards. And Milano just goes and makes plays. He plays downhill and he makes plays. But because of that, he misses a lot of tackles. And
mm,
on the other side, people are talking, hey, Edmunds misses a lot of tackles too. The last like 4 years in his career, he's actually gotten better in terms of missed
mhm,
tackle rate. So it's really tough to assess because they're just asked to do different things. I mean, Milano is asked to, stick with running backs and tight ends a lot of the times. And Edmunds is asked to kind of sit back and play high to low in zone. And
mm.
it's just different what they're asked to do. So I can't really differentiate one from the other. But what I will say is I definitely agree with Taylor's thought that it's easier to replace a Will than a Mike. And
Mm,
I definitely understand the contract thing. Like you said, it really it makes this whole thing a moot point because
mhm,
I mean Milano's got a big dead cap,
mhm.
Edmonds doesn't, and it'd be easier to reset that Mike position financially. But in terms of skill set, I think it's easier to find a replacement at Will than it is at Mike. And I think sometimes you have to be okay with average. And
Mm.
I think that's what we have with Edmonds because yeah, he is average, but I'd argue that he plays above average most of the time, and he'll settle down in some inconsistencies more into that average area. So
Mm.
sometimes you have to settle with average, and I understand a lot of people don't want to pay average, but it's a really important position, and a lot of people don't give him the flowers he deserves for being the rock of this defense. I mean, everything he's asked to do responsibility wise when it comes to post snap, but also pre snap.
I love a lot of the things that Taylor echoed in the chat. This one, I put it up earlier. This one's my favorite. Just because you can't see Edmonds on TV doesn't mean he's not doing anything. That's a film statement of ours over and over. This is also a very interesting one from Taylor saying it's not a running league anymore. Edmonds is a middle linebacker that covers tight ends and wide receivers one-on-one. His pattern matching is tremendously,
Yeah.
tremendously important. I was torn for a minute on the long-term aspect of it. But if, to break down Taylor's initial piece, if I'm looking at who's the best linebacker on this team right now, I think Matt Milano's the best linebacker on this team. Matt Milano has been one of the best linebackers in coverage, man and zone,
Oh
despite
yeah.
the fact that everybody says like, well, you can't cover Travis Kelce because he got beat that one time.
It's
Like
Travis
who is covering Travis Kelce? Like who? Show me the linebacker in the
Kelce.
league that's covering Travis Kelce. Like I would love to see him, please.
Everyone will point to Levante David in the Super Bowl, but that's one
Yeah.
game.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's also no disrespect to Levante David. It's nice when you can man up on a tight end when you're playing 2-man and you have a safety covering up over you over the
Truth.
top every single time. And then your pass rush is getting home against Patrick Mahomes because they're playing 3 backups on the offensive line, including a backup's backup at a couple positions. So that's not apples to apples. But Matt Milano I think he's the Bills' best linebacker. He's a
That's fair.
disruptor. He's smart. His role is tremendously important. I understand the age concept, though. Like Taylor pointed
Oh
in, like
yeah.
Matt Milano's 27. As we all know, Tremaine Edmunds is only 6 years old. So he's super young. He's got a ton of time to grow and continue to progress. So like that's fair. Like who's to say in 3 years, Tremaine Edmunds isn't the prince that was promised and doesn't hit that ceiling? This one hurts me a lot because I don't love Edmunds like that, but I think his role, even when he's not, and people are going to be like, well, see, you're making excuses for Edmunds. Even when he's not doing something, his presence as a deterrent
Yeah. Mhm.
allows, like, he's not the straw that stirs the drink, but he's one of the big ice cubes that make the drink nice and cold.
Mm.
And like, you want the drink to be cold. His athleticism, his understanding of things. I also saw a comment in there that, Edmonds is dumb as a rock. That's not true at all. He's a very smart football player.
Mhm.
I think sometimes he's too smart for his own good. I think he
Yup.
overthinks things, and that
Yup.
causes him to play slower because he's trying to read and diagnose. And it's not because he can't, it's because he's formulating and calculating all the different things. And then it causes him to be like, uh-oh, And then you
couldn't agree
combine,
more with that.
boom,
Couldn't agree more with that.
we're right here. And then you combine that with, him still growing as a player and trying to progress in this league. And I think Edmunds' role is so tough. You said it, a phrase earlier. We've said it in the film room here multiple times. We said it on Twitter. Edmunds has to two gap a lot. That is hard as a linebacker. He's in a lot of damned if you do, damned if you don't scenarios where if he picks the A gap, he's wrong. If he picks the B gap, he's wrong. That being said, I think Matt Milano is the best linebacker on this Bills team. And given what they signed him last year in the contract and all that kind of stuff, I don't see him going anywhere. I think if we had to play the game of like one of them has to go, and we're talking in terms of likelihood, I think it's Tremaine Edmunds. But that's a really interesting question because for me, I think, and again, this is where it comes down to like positional value. Like I think Matt Milano is, for me, easy call. He's the best linebacker on the Bills team. But if you switch the conversation and the question is who, like if you remove one of them, which has the bigger impact of loss on the defense, that's an interesting one. Because here's a comment from Sal. Sal says it's about making plays. Edmunds doesn't. Matt Milano makes plays. He makes a lot of splash plays. That is true. Tremaine Edmunds, and this is the whole thing with him, right? His role as a deterrent allows others, and people may say it's a cop-out, but his role as a deterrent allows other players to make the plays that they make. So what he does, it's not splashy. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet. He's not racking up tackles and interceptions. He's doing a lot of things that don't get seen. He's doing the things like when you see Matt Milano make a sweet tackle, a couple yards past the line of scrimmage on a drag route from a receiver or tight end or the running back that leaks out of the backfield. What you didn't see was the quarterback who wanted to go to the middle of the field on that post, and he can't because Edmunds carried the vertical of the slot receiver. And then he's like, oh, I can't hit that. Oh, the pressure's starting to get to me. Let me dump it down. And then boom, Matt Milano makes the hit. And everybody's going to see that play and they're going to be like, oh, Milano's a dog. He's so good. Edmunds wouldn't make that play, but Milano doesn't get to make that play. Granted, he makes it. Milano doesn't get to make that play if Tremaine Edmunds isn't doing his job.
Right.
He is a domino effect for so many other players. And I don't think people see that and understand it. I also think it's going to be hilarious if now that the Bills have like Daquan Jones and they've invested more in the defensive tackle grouping, if Edmunds is truly unlocked and just has a monster year and everybody's like, well, we got to keep Edmunds.
I know.
What do we do? I just want to see.
And then the money thing. It would be chaotic.
It would be chaos.
To that point, like this is why I talk about Edmunds as the occupier and Milano as the penetrator, because I see it so much like the same relationship between a 1 tech and a 3 tech. It seems so similar where Edmunds is that 1 tech. He's doing the dirty work of the linebacker, the second level area that just isn't appreciated. It's not in this defense. It is not appreciated. He is essentially the hockey assist guy. He's giving everyone else the chance to go make plays where he doesn't have the opportunity to make those same plays unless an offense is dumb enough to go right at him. And that just doesn't happen a lot. So it's really tough to appreciate what he does. And I acknowledge like a lot of the areas where people want him to be better. But I think the point that we're making is he's asked to do a lot of things where he's not going to get his flowers because he has to do the dirty work. And then on top of that, he's just kind of being underappreciated for being that afterthought because he's not making those splash plays like Milano is. So it's a very tough conversation. And then you bring the money into it, and it makes a lot of sense why people don't, the fan base in the chat here, just they don't want to pay him. And I do, I get it. There's a lot that makes sense when it comes to resetting the finances of that position. It makes a ton of sense. I just worry about it in 2022 with the Super Bowl on the precipice. That's the biggest thing for me.
That's a big one for me as well. Like, and start to get into the guys that we broke down for this episode. And again, because the whole idea is, okay, if you're replacing Tremaine Edmunds in this draft, so we look for guys that could fill his role based on skill set, based on scheme fit, based on archetype fit for what the Buffalo Bills like to look for. But that's a large plate to put in front of a rookie linebacker to have that burden of that role in this defense on a rookie linebacker. Like, it's not easy. Again, this isn't to give Tremaine Edmunds a pass. It's not easy to be a linebacker it's not easy to be Tremaine Edmunds, Matt Milano, and Taron Johnson
Yeah.
in this defense.
Yeah.
You are functioning in a nickel world against teams who, when they're going to try and run the ball, you have a light box. You got to take on blockers. You have to be precise in your angles, in your reads. Your timing has to be great. And not only do you have to account for the run, you have to account for the pass, and you play such an important role because you're not playing spot drop coverage. You're playing pattern matching a lot of times, and you have different clues and signals and keys, and you have to recognize, okay, we're in a 3-by-1. This is the situation. Here's our check. Here's what we want to do. If this guy does A, I'm doing B. If that guy does B, I'm doing X. Okay, snap. I have to read it at the exact same time. Timmy has to read it at the exact same time. We all have to read the same thing. Ready, break, let's go make a play. It's very hard to function in this Bills defense at that level. And really just in general, I think for the Bills D, I feel like people think the Bills defense, and it is to a degree, like it's simplistic. Like they don't have a lot of crazy looks or a lot of
it seems
complexity.
vanilla.
Yes. But what it is when you run those, let's compare it to the Seattle Seahawks cover 3, right? Everybody and their mother knew that cover 3 was coming, but they were so good at it that they were always on point, right? That's what the Bills are with the coverages they play and the games they play. But the problem is they're not always running the same thing. It's because their communication is so good. That's why Levi Wallace was a favorite of this coaching staff. He was that proverbial guy who was always in the right place at the right time. He understood his responsibility. And as a teammate, you knew where he was going to be. And that is what's so important about this defense, because when you're all making real-time decisions, you have to know, if you're the corner and I'm the safety, I have to trust, Kendall, that you're seeing the same thing that I am in the same moment, and we're both going to make the same read. If we're both reading 2-1, we both have to understand, okay, here's what 2 is doing. Boom, he's my guy. Because if you think he's your guy and I think he's my guy, we just let number 1 go, and that's a problem. And you don't see a lot of coverage breakdowns with this Bills defense because of their communication and their understanding. And that extends to the linebacking core, because they're a huge part of this coverage unit. You know, we talk about the secondary, the second level of Milano, Edmunds, and Taron Johnson. They might be the ones who are in conflict the most because they have to live in both worlds. They have to live in the run world. They have to live in the coverage world. They have to live in this pattern matching world where they have to account for varieties of skill sets and traits. Like, again, look with the Kansas City film we broke down. Tremaine Edmunds is carrying Byron Pringle up the field on a 15-yard post. Like, show me, not even to prop up Edmunds, like, show me a linebacker who's doing that. Show me, like right now, I'll take it. Like, show me someone who's carrying a receiver who runs a 4.43 40. Show me them carry that receiver running a 15-yard post up the field when they split the safeties. Show me, because I don't think you're seeing it regularly. And that's why, because this position is so important, we dove into the linebacking position. We're going to start here with our number 1. This, again, we looked at guys who could fill this role, who fill the potential role of Tremaine Edmunds, but fit that linebacker need potentially based on what they showed on tape, their skill set, frame, scheme fit, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to start with the guy in the graphic. We're going to start with the guy in the image, Mr. Devin Lloyd, linebacker out of the University of Utah. And Kendall, you have how many clips of him? 117?
I got a lot. I won't lie to you. I think I have like 5. But I want to run just kind of cut ups of him against Stanford and Oregon in the background.
I love that one. I love the way he engages and then extends. Oh,
the way he takes on blockers is really next level stuff. I mean, honestly, most of the guys we're going to be talking about tonight are really great at taking on offensive linemen, and I think that's definitely an area that people ask Edmunds to be much better in. And I mean, I think we can all agree that he's struggled in that area in a lot of ways to shed from those offensive linemen and to keep himself clean and navigate the trash sometimes and scrape across to make the play, all that kind of stuff. Devin Lloyd does that. Devin Lloyd is really cerebral when it comes to the angles he takes to go scrape and find the play, but also keep his body clean to allow himself to make the play. And this happens in the run game and the pass game. Dude is a menace when it comes to blitzing. Like, same way we talked about Nakobe Dean being a great blitzer, Devin Lloyd is a great blitzer. And as much as I think he's a better scheme fit than Nakobe Dean, I don't think we'd be getting everything out of Devin Lloyd if we put him in the Bills system, unless we change things a little bit and ask our linebackers to do a little bit more pass rushing stuff in blitz scenarios. I think, God, I really hope it doesn't happen, but I think he'd be perfect for the Patriots defense. If they take him at 21, I'll be very upset. But
I think
his skill set,
him and Lloyd would both be solid in that type of hybrid
yes.
defense where you don't know who's coming, who's going, who's dropping, who's in man. Yeah, they both would be solid. Oh, that would suck. I hope the Patriots don't take anyone good. That would be sweet.
Well, yeah, that obviously rule number 1 there for draft day. Take the worst player available, send him to New England.
Great.
Yeah, so my thing with Nakobe Dean is he's really got a big bag of tricks. He's got it all. He can do everything, and that's why I think he fits well for a team like the Patriots, because they have that hybrid system. But those things that he does well are things that Dean is slightly lower in terms of like the pattern matching stuff, how comfortable he is in zone and how he can read those routes. And you see it right here. He plants his foot in the dirt and he makes a play for the ball. Things like that. He's really good in pass coverage, but then also how he engages with offensive linemen. So I really like his game holistically, and the way he fits into this team and the way he would fit into the Mike linebacker position. I just think he's a really good fit in that regard. The way he fits the run, he's very cerebral in the way that he run fills. He doesn't really overrun things all that much. He only overrun things if there's misdirection. You know, if the offense puts you in a position of conflict where, hey, you got to play this read option, you're on the quarterback, he's going to play decisive and he's going to take the quarterback. And maybe he hands it off to the running back, and then the running back has a gain, and the will linebacker is supposed to get that. That's really the only instance I saw him making bad decisions, so to speak. So I really like everything in between the ears and also everything he does in between the lines of the field. I think he's a really solid prospect, and I don't think the Bills could go wrong taking him if the Bills move on from Edmunds.
He had a lot of really positive things that I saw on tape, and I mean, you've got his entire body of work here in this opening clip reel here from Mr. Devin Lloyd. But what first struck me with him was how smooth of a player he is. I think, and again, because I feel like people are going to continue to juxtapose them and combine them, and you'll see when we get into the film clips that we're going to break down for Lloyd and for Dean. Dean is more of like your bullet battering ram type of guy. He is just like, I'm going to run through you, and maybe I'll take an angle and run around you a little bit, but I'm going to run through you and smash through you. Devin Lloyd is more, I don't want to say technique, but there's more smooth flow to what he does. Even in how he attacks the run and blitzes sometimes, like on the interior, like it's not even just hand technique, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but he'll juke out guards and tackles. Like he'll blitz and give him a little stutter and then just like cut right around him, and it's smooth. He glides almost when he's on the field. He's got a very smooth gait, and I think that transitions to his movements. You know, you see some pop in his hands and the way he extends, but a lot of what he does, it's just very fluid. It's very controlled. It's very smooth, whether it's him reading runs, whether it's him pattern matching, whether it's him blitzing. I posted a clip earlier of he's rushing from the edge on a third down, and he executes a Dwight Freeney spin move and pops back inside. Even that, like, it's not herky-jerky. It's not violent. It's just smooth. It's under controlled. And when you see a guy with that kind of length and that kind of size, you worry, okay, how stiff is he? What's his bend like? What's his change of direction? What's his ankle flexion? All that kind of stuff. And he's got that. I mean that in a positive way. Like he can bend, he can change direction quickly. That's the one I like, right?
Yeah.
And all he does for technique is he uses his hands to clear the hands of the guard. But that's all juke. Like who's juking guards in the A gap? Like you don't see that a lot. He's got that smoothness and that agility to his game. And then when you add in the tackling in the space, the pattern matching, the size, the arm length, it all adds up to being a guy who shows up well potentially in this Bills defense. And I also like, you mentioned it earlier on Twitter when we were talking about him with Eric. What I like about his length and his technique is the things that he uses those for in the pass rush, he also uses it to shed blocks in the run game. Like you see that consistently exhibited by him over and over. And he's a really nice prospect. Again, he's not my linebacker one. I do like him, But if we're picking right now, pick one linebacker from this draft class to fit into the Bills, I think it's Devin Lloyd, hands down.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where it changes when you start to think about how they're going to fit to the Bills. I think you maximize the skill set and the efficiency and the effectiveness with Lloyd, whereas Dean, you're leaving some stuff on the table. There's some stuff that the Bills defense just it's like you said, you play a guy with great range in the outfield for baseball, but then you put him at third base, and that range, that speed means nothing now if you're playing him at third base. So yeah, I think that's a great comparison, and I think that makes a lot of sense when you're talking about Dean and Lloyd. So this first play from Lloyd, you guys saw it in the first little cut up. This is his pick 6 against Oregon, and you can see him just dropping into his zone, but you see him really identify this hitch route, this over ball curl route, and he sticks his foot in the dirt. And granted, it's not a great play it's not a great throw by the quarterback.
And quarterback's mad late.
Yeah, like that's the biggest point. Like, this is such a late throw. Like, this throw has to be made like now. And he's not even hitching up to make the throw. So definitely not a huge play by Lloyd in terms of he made this play, but he still had the ability to close on it and force the interception. Because if that quarterback was on time, it still would have been a hard completion. He dropped that foot in the dirt, and he got to the spot where the ball had to be. Even if the quarterback was a second earlier here, Lloyd is in great position to make a play. So I really like, obviously, the closing ability in coverage. That's something you like to see from cornerbacks, not necessarily linebackers. And he makes a play there, and then obviously takes it to the house, and you can see that athleticism. Something I didn't mention also, I'm pretty sure he didn't have the greatest 40-yard dash time, but he plays with range.
He ran, if I'm correct, at his pro day, I think he ran a 4.7 or a time that was very, 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 very terrible.
Right.
He plays faster than that 40 time indicates. What I also liked from that interception clip, granted the quarterback's late, I like how much ground Lloyd covers in jumping this route in just literally like 2 steps. Like, because he is longer, he's got that length, and we talk about it in the arms, but he's also got it in his legs. Once he decides to break on this ball, it's almost like 1.5 steps, and he's already in front, and he jacked it. It's over. Like, that's nice to see once he's sitting there and he can make up for those type of things with his physical ability. That's something that is nice to have for someone who, if everything doesn't click for you mentally, we saw it with Josh Allen early in his career, right? He wasn't, his reading of the game and his progression from 1 to 2 to 3 wasn't always where it needed to be, but he had such a strong arm. He could make these late throws and he could still complete them because he had a rocket attached to his shoulder, right? Sometimes you have that physical ability that can make up for where you are mentally. And Lloyd is there mentally, but it's nice to see that he has that physical piece to kind of take advantage. And when he pairs the two together, it's a really special thing. And yeah, even this, like, I know he's only getting run down by a quarterback, but I don't look at him and go like 4.7. Like,
yeah.
You don't see it. Like, he's got a good gait. He's smooth. I think he's deceptively fast, but this is a really nice play, nice pick 6, and they housed Oregon in this one. Oh, nice play.
Yeah, they did. He got taken out of the game quite early. And that's the same thing with this next play here against Stanford. This is just a quick one that just shows kind of like the cerebral side to things. There's not much to break down here other than he's going to be asked to blitz here. He's going to take on the offensive lineman, and then he's just going to make a play on the ball because he sees he can't get there. I thought this was just a spectacular play. Pre-snap, the quarterback asked the slot receiver to essentially run a flat so it opens up the slant route on the backside of it. And I mean, I'm sure Lloyd didn't know that was coming, but either way, he gets himself right in the passing lane. And once he acknowledges that he can't get to the quarterback, his eyes are on the quarterback and he jumps up and makes a play. So thought that was a really impressive play. And this was his last play of the Stanford game as they blew out Stanford. He makes this play and he's on the bench after this. There's no reason to play anymore once you're up 40 and you make a play like that. So really impressive play here. But I want you to talk about this play because here's a pass breakup against Stanford, and it kind of shows that pattern matching ability.
We talked about clips that we were going to go over, and it was like, oh, who do we want to like pull for what? And for all 4 guys tonight, like a key theme again was that pattern matching. And this one's nice against the tight end lined up right off the left tackle. And you see him dropping, reading the quarterback, and then literally matching that pattern of the tight end. And you see him he gets in phase right away. And he's right there. The angle is there. The location is there. He doesn't get grabby. He doesn't get handsy. It's nice and comfortable. He's right there to make a play. He's in the kitchen. If it's completed, he's got a chance to break it up. Yep. If the throw is slightly off, he has a chance to pick it. This is something you see regularly with Devin Lloyd, and this is a huge piece of why he's the ideal linebacker for the Bills. And we're talking replacement because of that pattern matching ability. His comfortability level in coverage is tremendous. This is something that you don't really see from Nakobe Dean a lot. And if you do, it's maybe here or there. This is something Devin Lloyd does with regularity. And this is something the Buffalo Bills do with regularity. This plays like it's man coverage, but it's not. This is a zone coverage look, but he's pattern matching. So this becomes man coverage for him on tight end number 84. That's something the Buffalo Bills do a lot. And that was a big reason why we like Lloyd, because he's very, very, very familiar and very comfortable in that type of world, which is the world he'd have to live in if he came to this Bills team.
100%. Speaking on it from a leverage standpoint, you can see that he's heavy inside on this. I'll actually go to the he's very far inside on this, and he's got to play that middle area of the zone, but he plays it very well disciplined, where he doesn't get too decisive on getting outside of 84. He makes sure he stays inside and has good positioning for if this does turn into a dig route, he's in position to go ahead and jump it. But once it breaks down, you can see him plant his right foot in the dirt, and he gets right through the ball here. So yeah, like you said, just great job pattern matching there. And yeah, he is, in my opinion, the most comfortable linebacker in coverage that I've scouted so far. So that's a huge part of it. And here's another one that shows how he's able to process in zone. This is a little bit different from how the Bills do things, because Edmunds probably would have carried the deep bender dig route behind him, but he does a good job to at least take that passing lane away and not get too decisive and take away the drag right away, because he doesn't really make a first move on that drag route until the quarterback makes a move. So it's good timing and discipline in zone to make sure you're occupying those passing lanes and then closing and driving, and like you like to say, click and close, detonate on the play. So I really like this play from Devin Lloyd.
What's nice about a play like this too, right? Like, say if you want to freeze it right when the quarterback is about to throw it.
In end zone or
end zone, please.
End zone. Okay.
So if you look, this is where that, we both hate to harp on it, where that physical ability or the physical God-given, size comes through. Pause it right there. So he's already reading this drag coming across the middle, right? But say, just for the hell of it, say the quarterback is in this windup right here, and even though his eyes and his body language are screaming that he's going to throw the dig, what if he throws that dig behind Devin Lloyd, right? Well, it's hard to make a throw like that when, again, the guy in that coverage piece is a big guy who's tall and who has length and who has size. That's, again, it may sound stupid, but it's nice having a linebacker who Devin Lloyd is 6'3" and he's got long arms, and Nakobe Dean is 5'11" and doesn't have such longish arms. It's literally, as stupid as it sounds, you have a bigger window to throw if the guy in coverage is smaller. So even when you can be wrong, you're still making things hard on that offense because of the God-given physical size that you have. So even if he was wrong on this play, which he's not, his mere presence still helps the defense and still helps him, which you can't coach size and you can't coach speed. And sometimes those physical things just win out. And this time, again, it comes low on that drag, and this poor Oregon player has nowhere to go. And he tries to stop and put his foot in the ground, and he's swarmed. And then, click, close, detonate. Really nice rep from Light. Again, what's nice, and you mentioned it, what we saw in these last two plays, two different types of reads and coverage.
Yeah.
Being able to be in position to carry someone upfield and then stop on a dime, plant your foot and make a play. And then also drop, sync, read, react, read the pattern and the play recognition, but also read the movement of the quarterback, come forward and make a play. All very important things that have to be done in this Bills defense, given the pattern matching zone defense that the Bills play.
This is what happens when you cheat and you pick more plays than you're allowed to pick.
I knew you were going to do it, and I was going to be like, let me pick more. We set a
You
rule
could
for
have.
3. We set a rule for 3 for each player, and I knew you were going to pick more. But I mean, we're 45 minutes in. If we each pick 5, we're going to be here for 75 hours,
Yeah,
which I would be fine with it. But the hoof might not be that thrilled.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Yeah, no, we'll have to hurry it up here. But this last one is really, I think this is the last one. Hopefully it's the last one. This one really just
you probably
shows
have another 58 to go.
Range and his closing ability. This is supposed to show that he's not the slow 40 guy. Like, this doesn't tell you this dude can't run 40s. He can't close on people. He doesn't have range to play sideline to sideline. Like you said, like his fluidity with how he plays, not only just, hip fluidity and how he rushes the passer and all of that stuff. Like, he's just fluid how he runs. He covers a lot of ground in a very like graceful manner. Mm-hmm. And then obviously once, he makes a play, it's not so graceful. It's pretty violent, but I love the well-roundedness and holistic skill set that he offers. I love it. And then I guess this last one is blitzing. I think this is the play that you like, actually.
That's one where he jukes the
hand usage and the swipe move.
Boom, right here. Whoop, a nice little juke. And that's like he does this multiple times in this game against Oregon. Again, it's just some guys might be like, all right, let me bull rush or let me try to get technical. He swipes the hands, but it's really just his lower body and the agility that gets him into the backfield here. Like, he gives like a legitimate like hesitation shoulder shimmy that like a wide receiver gives versus press man to try and get free at the line of scrimmage, stutter, bang, and then swipes the hands and he's in. Now he doesn't make a play here, but he gets a pressure.
He gets a hit.
He does get a hit. He gets a hit. He gets pressure and forces the ball to come out early. And again, it's just a nice piece of his skill set. That's really impressive. Like, when he rushes the quarterback, whether he's coming from the second level or whether he's coming off the edge or coming from the A gap already lined up pre-snap, he has a pass rush plan and he has moves. Yep. That would be awesome to see from an edge rusher. But the fact that you're seeing that from an off-ball linebacker is a really tremendous thing. He has multiple games where he spends a significant amount of time on the edge lining up as a rusher. And you see technique, you see plan, you see pass rush moves, you see connectivity from the mental side to his feet, to his hands. You see hand technique. It's not just like, well, I'm going to attack the shoulder and see what I can do, or I'm just going to try and get into his kitchen and extend and see what can happen. Like, no, there's genuine thought and plan combined with technique, and that's not the most impressive thing for me, but I think it's really telling for his skill set and his ability, given the fact that he's an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, 100%. It's a super holistic skill set, and I think the fact that it's not predicated on that blitz ability, you're not leaving that on the table like you are. We'll get to Dean now. You're not so much leaving that skill set on the table with Dean because Lloyd offers so much more than just that blitz ability, that extra bonus of being able to rush the passer. That's kind of how I see it, where it's an added bonus to his game. If you get him and you play him at Mike, you're like, oh, maybe this is a guy where we could tweak our system a little bit, and maybe we do want to start blitzing our linebackers a little bit more because we'll optimize this skill set that is Devin Lloyd. So we'll get on to Nakobe Dean now, and we'll show maybe some of, obviously, the great things that he does, but how it can be limiting in nature to what Devin Lloyd is.
Yes, very true. But Kendall, you know the rules. We got to pause. Silas, our boy, consistent commenter, contributor, watcher, viewer. One, thank you for the super chat donation, Silas. As always, appreciate the hell out of you. And the comment, what happens if Buffalo drafts a linebacker and Edmunds has a monster, all caps, year and the rookie shows a ton of promise? Is Edmunds still the odd man out? I think in that scenario, I'll answer it quickly, Kendall, and then you can go. I think for me, if the Bills draft a linebacker, I think it comes early because they traded Tremaine Edmunds. So in this scenario, the guys we're going over, Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, Leo Chenal, Quay Walker, I think these are guys the Bills target if Tremaine Edmunds is gone. These are all guys who, instead of focusing on day 1, day 2, and day 3 guys, we focused on guys that could be a replacement if Tremaine Edmunds is gone. So we're looking at guys who probably going to be gone by maybe at the latest middle of round 3, but you could see all 4 of these guys gone by round 2. I think realistically, they're all gone by the end of day 2. So if the Bills are grabbing one of these guys or grabbing a linebacker, I think they're grabbing one early, and it's to replace Tremaine Edmunds. Then if you don't and you have a rookie who shows a ton of promise while Tremaine Edmunds is on the roster, for me, that only happens if Tremaine Edmunds gets hurt. And I think that means that, yeah, Edmunds is the odd man out because this rookie who we hadn't planned on playing, he played and did fantastic. So Edmunds is on his way. I think in that scenario, that results in Edmunds being the odd man out either way, because these guys were talking about if the Bills grab him, it's because Edmunds is gone. If you have some rookie you took later on day 3 who balls out and shows a ton of promise, it's because something happened to Edmunds where he wasn't playing, and therefore he's going to be the odd man out by default anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of that. I think the only thing I would add is that if the Bills were to draft a linebacker early and Edmunds is still part of the plans for 2022, I just personally think that's poor asset management and allocation. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I understand a lot of people want to hedge their bets against Edmunds and not only hedge their bets, but have some leverage going into the offseason with contract negotiations and stuff like that. I don't think you're giving yourself as a team, Brandon Beane, I don't think you're giving yourself leverage if you go ahead and draft the linebacker in the second round. I think you've made your decision. You've already made your bed. Now you have to lie in it, you know? So I think you make that decision before the draft or during the draft. Whatever you're doing with Edmunds, I think that decision is around the corner and we're all going to get answers in the next 3 weeks or so.
Hopefully. Beane is a wizard and he likes to pull moves, and we keep, I'm a very big believer in where there's smoke, there's fire, and if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And we're seeing a lot of duck things in terms of rumors and dot connecting for the Buffalo Bills, so we might see a duck come draft time. You know who's not a duck? He was a bulldog, and he's a human. Mr. Nakobe Dean. This first play, in a nutshell. So, yeah, let it start, and then we're going to leave it pause there.
Okay.
This one is a highlight of, again, I only picked 3 because that's what we were supposed to do. Kendall broke the rules. But I picked 3 plays that are an encapsulation, representation, and microcosm, I love that word, of Nakobe Dean's play style, who he is, and what he does. This play is designed to make him wrong. Georgia is in man coverage. What's going to happen here, don't run it yet, but what's going to happen here is the man that Nakobe Dean is on is going to come in motion. Ball's going to be snapped. They're going to get this ball to the man in motion while he is in motion, because it's designed to out-leverage the defense, and it's designed to out-leverage Nakobe Dean. Some of you may remember this play. It was fantastic in this playoff game for Georgia versus Michigan here in the Orange Bowl. We're going to let it play. I'm not going to say anything until the end because I think this play is ridiculous, and I love the hell out of it because it's designed to beat him. It's designed to make him in this defense fail, and in the blink of an eye, he erases it. Go ahead, Kendall, and hit the play button. You'll see Dean. There's the motion man. Here we go. That's wild.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it on the end zone too. You just see him fly.
Yes.
Across the screen.
Flashes, and he's there. The angle, the pursuit. And what I want to key in on too, and this may seem small, this isn't necessarily always true, but you can really tell how good a play is by an individual player by how pumped it makes the sideline and how pumped it makes the players on the field. And if you look at it, bring it to the sideline angle and then pause it right after he makes this tackle. You'll watch the whole sideline as we start to watch. They all like get up out of their seats and want to come on the field. And then all the players who are on the field all come to like twirling. Like they are pumped from that. You know why? Because they all recognize the degree of difficulty on that play. This isn't something that maybe Devin Lloyd makes this play, and maybe a couple other guys in this class. This isn't, but see, exactly. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Dean does this regularly, covering guys like this. But again, this isn't something like, let's translate it to the Bills, right? You're not going to see this for the Buffalo Bills. They're not going to run this type of game and this type of coverage. Potentially, but it's not something that happens regularly. Georgia does this regularly. This is why we talk about that scheme fit piece. While this play is awesome, it's not something that maybe the Bills can maximize from Nakobe Dean because they're not going to do this type of thing on defense. But regardless, tremendous play. You see the speed, the play recognition, the angle, the pursuit. And then the tackling and the finish at the end. That's a good form tackle. Wraps him up, alligator style, gets the twist, brings him down. I picked this play as number 1 on purpose, and I kind of don't even want to show anything after this, but I think it's beautiful.
I mean, you did a great job with 3 plays because you did encapsulate everything that is Nakobe.
Yeah, I did what we agreed upon, Kendall.
I hope the chat is coming after me as hard as you are. But no, I think you hit on a really great point about what he would be asked to do on the Bills. And you think about Tremaine Edmunds. I mean, when's the last time Tremaine Edmunds followed a running back out wide? I don't remember the last time we saw that when a running back gets split out.
I got to talk about, I love Silas's comment. He says, I wreak havoc with Edmunds on Matt.
Hey, so do I. And that's probably where a lot of my bias comes from.
That's fair. But yeah, Katia, how often do you see this type of look and this type of responsibility happening?
And it could just be because the Bills aren't in man all that much. You know, it could literally just be that. And hey, if the Bills go ahead and get a scheme versatile corner and they play more man, maybe Nakobe Dean becomes more a more optimized version of Mike linebacker. Maybe if those tweaks are taken, maybe it makes more sense. But that's the big thing here. Like, this is something I think you would see more from Matt Milano. You know, you see a running back get split out wide into motion, and you're like, okay, Matt, go follow him. Go follow him here. We got to keep our rock in the middle of the defense, you know, wherever the ref is. That would be Tremaine Edmunds, and everyone else is still in their spot. So that's kind of the thing. My only caveat to this, like, it's an amazing play, but it's like, how does it fit the Bills? Would the Bills have their middle linebacker following a running back like Nakobe Dean is here? But yeah, this is a tremendous play, and he does this all the time. That closing speed and that range is really uncanny, and it's why he pops so much on tape, and it's why people love him so much. He plays with a great amount of energy and speed and athleticism.
And you see how much like the players like love that play. Like, he makes those type of plays that gets everybody, like we saw there, not just the fans. He gets the players on the bench up off the bench. He gets them out of their seat. He gets the sideline to come closer to the sideline. He gets the players who are on the field with him to want to rally and like smash their helmet into his to be like, yo, good play, boy. Like, he just makes plays left and right. And also the play that he made on that last one, that dude can fly for Michigan.
Yeah,
like,
Corum.
Yes, he had a huge run against Ohio State. His speed is real. And Nakobe Dean runs him down in the blink of an eye. It gave me, it's not the same play or similar look, but it gave me the vibe of when Ray Lewis runs down Tiki Barber in that Super Bowl. When they run that toss to Tiki and he tries to get to the sideline and Ray just tracks him, and just runs him down in the blink of an eye. Like, that's real. That's legit. This one is a physical play, but this is the mental one. So don't play it yet. Well, we can play it. You'll see, actually, just keep showing that you know what I'm going for here. Nakobe Dean's calling this play out. Eric Turner tweeted this play earlier this week. This is the headiness. This is the intelligence we talk about when Nakobe Dean, you see him making that little windmill motion, and you might be like, what's going on? Is he trying to stretch out his arm? Is he trying to loosen up his elbow or his pec or his shoulder or his rotator cuff? Is he feeling okay? He's calling it out to the defense. He does this all the time. He calls the checks. He calls out things pre-snap. He's the guy making adjustments, but he literally calls what's going to happen here. So he's calling and telling the defense, yo, here comes that orbit motion. Here it comes. And what happens on this play? Boom. The orbit motion comes, but this is the key, right? The intelligence to know what's coming, the work and the preparation that he put into film study, the ability to connect the dots on the field and call it out and be right. And then on top of that, to blitz, the angle that he takes to the quarterback is so beautiful that even when he kind of gets pushed in the back here, by that left tackle, he's still in perfect position to make the play. He doesn't get too shallow. He doesn't come too tight. He doesn't get too wide and allow the quarterback to escape. His timing, his angle, and then again, the finish, something he does with regularity all the time. This one might be the best encapsulation of Nakobe Dean: intelligence, leadership, preparation, burst, and then functional intelligence and execution in the angle and route that he takes to the quarterback. We've seen it all the time as Bills fans. We've seen routes taken to the quarterback that are not proper, and what happens? Patrick Mahomes steps up in the pocket or escapes out the back door, and you're done. Dean gives no room for the QB here. He suffocates him. He pins him in, nowhere to go. And on top of it, he called out what was going to happen before the play even happened. Like, that's beautiful. Especially at the college level, you don't see that every day. So now you're going to put him in the NFL where all he's going to do is spend time watching tape and playing football. Like his intelligence is going to go up further. It's a really great play.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more on the football intelligence of this, but then also the physical ability to follow through with the body control as he's being pushed to the ground to keep that angle about him and keep his balance to make the play. It's really a great play. And I mean, the burst and the acceleration that he shows through this to be able to accelerate through that contact right there and keep his body control, his balance about him to keep that angle and make the play and finish it. It's really a great play.
That's another piece too. He has multiple gears when he
does.
blitzes, and he's got pace and he understands when to use it. He doesn't just come screaming out of the gate. He almost like, okay, bang. Like, and he does that when he blitzes, especially on stunts. He has a really uncanny ability to recognize what route he has to take when he blitzes and when to kick it up from 25 to 75, or when to kick it up from 25 to 50 to 75 to 100, or when to go from 25 to 100. He just paces himself, and that acceleration, that explosion, that burst, man, it's on display in a variety of ways with him, but especially when he blitzes. And again, this play is awesome. This isn't a thing you're going to see all the time with the Bills defense. Like, you're not going to see a lot of blitzing opportunities for Nakobe Dean if he comes to the Buffalo Bills, which is a shame because it's arguably his best attribute.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the shame.
That's the shame. We had a comment here from Jowl who says, how is Dean in coverage? And man,
perfect timing.
I'm so glad you asked that. I kind of planned it this way because I thought somebody would be like, how is he in coverage? And here's the thing. Here's the thing, what we talked about, and Kendall, leave it on pause. This is what we talked about earlier, right? What we showed for coverage for Devin Lloyd was pattern matching. We showed him dropping in zone coverage, reading under routes, deep posts, deep hooks, comeback, stuff like that, and then functioning in a man coverage role in that pattern matching stuff, right? You're not going to see that a ton on tape from Nakobe Dean. What you are going to see is man coverage, especially on running backs coming out of the backfield, tight ends coming on drag routes. That's what you're going to see here. And you see one of the best interceptions of the college football season here for Nakobe Dean. This is another one. Just let it run. We'll talk about it after. Oh boy. Look at it. Oh, and then again, this is another one. Look at the sideline. The sideline wiling out, all the players wiling out. This angle is perfect, right? So he sees the running back coming out of the backfield. What I like too, right? Is keep on this end zone angle. What's nice about this one, right? He, as number 5 is coming across the middle, Dean gears down a little bit to make sure he doesn't get caught in the trash. He peeks a little bit and uses his peripherals right there. Bang. He sees it, comes underneath it to make sure he can take this angle, right? Then he stays on top of the running back. And he's looking at the quarterback.
Eyes on the quarterback.
Eyes on the quarterback. So he sees the ball coming out, right? But then watch, keep it in slow-mo. His eyes shift to the running back. So now he's in tackling mode. I'm seeing red. I'm going to make a play. But then the ball pops in the air. And look at the instantaneous reaction and change of direction combined with full body extension. This is Jahan Dotson level of extension at the catch point. Like, making a play to tie all of our stuff together. Like, look at that. Like, man, that's just athleticism. That's burst. That's pace. That's awareness. That's intelligence. Again, another play, because we're only supposed to pick 3, that encapsulates who Nakobe Dean is. Yeah, and as Jowl says, great body control. Hell yeah, that is great body control. He's very athletic. He's bursty. He's fast. He's twitchy. He might not be the ideal scheme fit, and that's part of the reason why I said it, right? Like, he does so many great things. He's just a good football player. If the Bills took him, I wouldn't be upset. Like, maybe it's not the best scheme fit. You could do a lot worse than adding a really good football player and a really smart football player to your team. You could make a lot worse decisions than that. God, I could watch this interception for forever.
We're not averse to good football players here in Buffalo. We still want good players, but I think that at the end of the day is that scheme fit thing. That's what we keep getting hung up on. It's like,
but it's real. It's the reason it's the reason you're not going to see some guys taken. It's the reason when everybody will sit there and be like, the best player on the board is this player, and the Bills have a hole and a need at that position. How come they didn't take him? Well, maybe that guy wasn't a scheme fit. So maybe that guy, exactly, maybe that guy plays that position they need, but the Bills aren't going to go for it because that guy, he may be the best player on the board for the position, but he doesn't play the position in a way that they need him to. Therefore, he's not on the board. God, I love that interception.
I know the way he closes on stuff, like his athleticism just pops off the tape, and it's really upsetting that his numbers haven't come out yet, because I'm curious how it's going to translate. Actually, Georgia already had their pro day. He probably elected not to.
He didn't run the 40.
Okay.
He did not run the 40.
I mean,
but
everything
again,
else should check out on tape anyways.
Tape don't lie. Game speed over time speed, and this is where you see it again. Like he really excels in this way too. Like this is probably one for him that Georgia does this all the time. If the running back stays in, you're blitzing. If he goes out, he's yours.
Yeah,
that's it. And so if he stays in, you're green dogging. That he did not stay in, the running back released, cover him. But it's still, you got to close. You got to take a proper angle. And again, the fact that you can watch him transition from there's the throw. Okay, let me make a tackle. Uh-oh, the ball's in the air, interception. He does all that in the blink of an eye. He translates from middle linebacker to center fielder in the blink of an eye. That ticks a lot of boxes, man. It's more than just an interception because so many things led up to it.
Yeah.
To put him in that position, but also to allow him to execute. That's real.
Yeah, the more I watched Dean, the more I was like, it's upsetting that I can't like really fall in love with the way he fits, because I really love the player. But who knows? Maybe the Bills are okay with it. Maybe if they do move on from Edmunds, maybe they'd be okay with that kind of shift philosophically to allow the linebackers to get more downhill in what they do, and maybe get more two-gapping presences and schemes on the front four. But
he allows you to do a lot. He's somebody who, like,
exactly,
as much as I would hate it, like putting him in New England or like putting him in Baltimore's defense or putting him in Dallas's. Oh, and then you get to play games of like who's blitzing, who's dropping, what's going to happen, who's playing man, who's not. Like the possibilities are endless because he's this chess piece. But again, it doesn't work if Rondé Barber is one of the prototypical Tampa 2 corners with that Buccaneers defense, but you're not taking Rondé Barber and being like, cool, you're going to play man everywhere you go because he's a Tampa 2 corner. It's all about that scheme fit. It's all about skill set. And that's a very important thing. And now, so those are our top 2. Now we move on to guys who may be more realistic later in day 2 or even potentially early day 3. And we're going to start with somebody who, Kendall, you've mentioned this person a lot, even before we did the idea for this episode has started to go through. Mr. Leo Chenal, linebacker out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I like the idea of Leo Chenal from the measurable side of things. He ticked a lot of boxes in terms of just how he compares to what Brandon Beane has drafted at that middle linebacker position, what he's brought in free agency, what he's traded for, all that kind of stuff. So I felt like that ticked the box. And then once I checked out the film, I was like, okay, he's got some stuff to work with. I think the biggest thing with him is always going to be, is he a true 3-down linebacker? And I think there's a lot of stuff out there that he's really just an inside run stopping thumper kind of guy, and he won't really allow you to do a lot of stuff in coverage. I think there's shades of it. Like he has potential to get better in coverage, and I'll show one play where he pattern matches. All right, good throw, good catch, and he can't do much about it. But I think there's room to grow for him, and I think he is a 3-down linebacker. His athletic testing would tell you he's a 3-down linebacker.
He tested beautifully at his size and weight, and he ran a 4.53.
He had an amazing testing. Yeah, 4.53, 10-yard split was 1.5. And then 99th percentile for linebackers. Oof. I mean, everything he did was pretty much.
He ran a 4.53 at what? At 261 pounds? Oh, 250.
250. Okay. Yeah, he probably shed weight for his combine. But that's the thing.
Cheater,
so
liar.
I know, right?
How dare you?
I think we both came away from the tape thinking he does not play like his combine numbers or whatever, wherever he did this, what his numbers suggest. And I think that has something to do with his playing weight more than it does to what the combine suggests. I don't know if he's comfortable playing in that 260 area or if he was like, oh, I just got to test well, so I'm going to shed 10 pounds and test better. So I don't know what he's at, but I think he could definitely stand to lose 10 pounds and play a little bit lighter. I saw that last night. He said that in the Air 8 hour. I thought that was so funny.
That's good.
So yeah, I like Leo Chenal for definitely his physicality and what he can do in the run game. But I think he has some upside in the passing game. You just kind of got to tap into it. So I will nix my cut ups and I will just get into my clips.
Oh my goodness. Are you sure?
I know, right? Yeah.
You don't want to get into the 168 cut ups that you have of Leo Chenal. I want to mention one quick thing too, as well, when it comes to him in coverage versus around the line of scrimmage. And I was talking with, I forget who on Twitter about this a couple nights ago. I think he has more confidence around the line of scrimmage and he plays faster and he processes. No, it wasn't. It was you after. I talked to somebody about this first and then you and I started talking. Sorry about it.
Unbelievable, man.
I remember when you and I were speaking about it in the DMs, but it was when because I posted that clip against Notre Dame.
Yep.
And it got retweeted by a couple Spencer Schultz and Cole Jackson. We started talking about Leo Chenal. And Spencer made a really good point that he's more comfortable around the line of scrimmage and therefore he plays faster. He processes faster around there. Because I mentioned when he's in coverage, sometimes it seems like he's like got cement feet and he's just not like shucking and jiving and moving. Like he's just very like, and you're just like, what are you doing? Because you don't do that around the line. Like you click and close around the line and you burst around the line. What's going on? I think he's just so much more comfortable. And again, that's where it goes into your scheme fit thing. I think if you put him as a 3-4 inside linebacker and you let him function around the line of scrimmage and be a dog and a monster, and hopefully he can play against Tyler Linderbaum every single week and just ruin his day like he did against Iowa.
Right.
You're using him to his skill set because that's where he's most comfortable. Now, that doesn't mean he can't get more comfortable in coverage and do these things, right? Like you can coach him up and allow him to get that. But I think for people, just in case anybody sees it and it's like, man, he doesn't play fast like that. You and I are both in agreement that I think a lot of it comes from his confidence and his processing and what he's seeing in the pass game versus how confident he is coming forward and playing the run and playing around the line of scrimmage.
It's a lot easier to make decisions when you don't have a lot of decisions to make. And that's what happens when you're closer to the line of scrimmage and your field of vision is shrunk. When you're playing deeper, it's easier to play linebacker than it is to play safety in some ways because you see more of the field when you're a safety. You have way more to think about, do I have to go here? Exactly. But when you're a linebacker and you're playing off ball versus you're a linebacker playing where he's aligned right here on the screen, it's split second stuff. You got to make a decision. You just have to act on it. You can't think about processing. You just have to go.
You just have to process. You can't be like, how am I processing? It's just like, no, you just need to process. And in a Bills defense, like we talked about, where it's very mental and it's very heady, if you've got someone who has to take the time to be heady, that slows their play down. And then it causes a negative domino in terms of kind of a weak link in the chain. And you see potential negative effects.
Right. So on this play here, I wanted to show that combine stuff isn't fake. Like he still has range and he can still close on the ball and make a play. So you see him here closing on that screen. He drops back from that line of scrimmage spot, drops into his zone, identifies his screen quickly, and then goes, closes, makes the play. So you can see the athleticism here. He's reading the quarterback. You can see him in his drop step stuff.
He lived in the A gap in this game. Poor Tyler.
Oh, so much. Yeah, he made Tyler Linderbaum look like a fool in this game, like multiple times. And my last clip will show just one of the instances that he does it. But
and Linderbaum is a legit really good center. Like he's number one in this class. Like, and he's got potential, like all pro caliber, like written on him. People have been talking about him like that for a while. So the fact that he struggled so mightily against Chenal, again, it could be a one-off, but I think it's telling to how effective he is around that line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I'll get to more of my thoughts on him and his stoutness and his take on ability once I think that's later a little bit, but
probably it's 75.
Yeah, probably maybe 76. But
I'm just going to keep making more jokes about
it. We'll get there when we get there. No, but I really do like his athleticism when it is that, like what we talked about, when he's forced to just do, when he's not processing, he's just doing. You see, he has his eyes on the quarterback makes a decision. So he makes a decision. It's very quick, sudden stuff from him. It's nothing like super intellectual or cerebral on this play. but that's what's nice about it, because you can see that this is still something that's a part of his game. He can still do this. You just have to find it. You have to find scenarios that brings this out of him. And obviously the offense brought this out of him just by checking it down on a screen pass, but it's within him. It's just about finding ways to maximize this athleticism. So he has it in him, just got to maximize it.
Yeah, and you see what I think is nice too, like this is what you see sometimes, like it may seem small, but like look how quickly he just drops, gets a nice little shuffle of his feet. He's parallel, he's good. You don't always see that. Like you see that movement there, and then other times where it just looks like he's trudging along. That's the word I want to use. Or like he's moving in quicksand, or the cement feet analogy that I used earlier. He doesn't have those cement feet here. And I think it's because, again, his field of vision is narrow, and combined with the situation and his intelligence, like he's already diagnosed pre-snap, like, okay, here's what I think might be coming. Oh, boom, there's my tell. I'm gone. And he's just reading and reacting. And that's when, again, you can say that for anybody, but when he's reading and reacting, he's really a problem to deal with because of his physicality, because of his angles to the football, and because of how stout he is at the point of attack. Like whether it's point of attack against a lineman or point of attack in terms of contact and making a tackle, like you feel him if you're the ball carrier, or you feel him if you're the guy who's making contact with him. So this one's a nice one because it shows what he can do in coverage when confident with what's going on in front of him.
110%. So this is my my one clip of him in coverage, and like I alluded to earlier, it's just a good throw and catch. There's not much he can do about this, but you can see he gets a hand in there. Like he has the right idea. He's very he has a hand on the
reach,
ball.
Athletic.
Like there's pretty good read and react on this, mirror match ability, all of that stuff. But he's just a hair late, and I think there's potential to be had here, and you can see that. Obviously, he's playing with inside leverage on this one, and kind of a little out stick route gets the better of him. But you can see that there is something to work with here. It's not like he's completely inept and he's going to be a liability in coverage. I mean, he could be in 3 or 4 years, but I don't think it's at a point where anyone should write off his ability to play on all 3 downs. I think he has all the athleticism in the world to work with it. And it's just kind of going to be a work in progress to see if he can do it at a better level. His Notre Dame tape was actually really good in zone. I felt very comfortable with what he was doing in terms of reading the defense and sitting in the right spots and taking away passing lanes. But this is one that shows more of a, I guess, man principles, but it's still zone. But it shows more man principles, and seeing this is encouraging, even though it is a pass and catch and a completion.
And you hit 2 points that I love, like the Notre Dame tape. That's the one I started with, and his coverage in there, it's more spot droppy. Which
yes, it is.
He's more comfortable with, as most people are. But again, the Bills don't do a ton of spot drop coverage. And again, spot drop, for those who don't know, think of it like Madden, where if you run cover 4 in Madden, right, and you have the defensive play up there, and you see like the player and then like their little drop zone, if it's the secondary guys, the little blue drop zone, the linebackers, it's yellow. Spot drop means like that's where they're dropping to. They have a landmark to hit. They know like, okay, I'm supposed to have the hook curls from 7 to 8 yards. That's where I have to drop to, snap the ball. Let me get back to that spot, line up, boom, there I go. Pattern matching is you have a guy come into your zone, and based on the read and the call, he's your man for man. That's why we always say like eventually zone becomes man. Well, this is one of the reasons why we say that. What I also think is interesting on this one, you mentioned it with Devin Lloyd. The pattern matching clip that we showed for Devin Lloyd on a very similar route, also against the tight end who wore number 84. Devin Lloyd was much more inside than Chenal was. And this is where we talk about, again, skill set and scheme fit. If we're comparing this to where Devin Lloyd was like almost inside the right, well, from the left side. But imagine if Devin Lloyd was like almost closer to the right tackle. Exactly. And he still made that drop with confidence, with speed, with angle, and made the play. Granted, it wasn't a great throw. Here, Chenal is already in almost ideal position just based off a pre-snap alignment, and he still isn't quite there with it. That's where we talk about that coverage piece, right? And the difference in skill set. Like, look at how someone is able to give different looks. If you're the Iowa quarterback right here, Chenal is going to be playing coverage. And then you look at the safeties, you try to figure out the game that's going on, because safeties are what ID your coverage look if you're the quarterback. It's a lot harder to do that if Chenal is Devin Lloyd and he's lined up over the right tackle. Because maybe he's going to stay inside. Maybe he's going to blitz. Maybe he's going to take the running back man for man and they're going to bring somebody else in a blitz look. Here, you can almost kind of pre-snap indicate that Chenal is going to be dropping into that zone and or covering the tight end. And then on top of that, even with Chenal having the good position, it's like still close in terms of what happens on this play. So again, that's that level in separation when you look at a player and how they're built for the next level. But again, all things considered, especially considering this is the quote unquote like weaker part of Chenal's game, it's still not bad considering how strong he is functioning against the run and functioning coming forward and around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's the thing I would use when I talk about him in coverage. Probably the word sufficiency. It's sufficient for now, and there's upside to be tapped into, but it's going to come down to if it can be tapped into or not. So that's kind of the question with Chenal. Let's move on to the next one. So his blitz ability here is his play against Linderbaum. And that's
so
the thing.
Many.
It's like
there's so many against Linderbaum in this game. That poor guy.
So many. There was a 4th and 1 that he just got the better of him and a fullback. And it was really, I almost put it in instead of this one. But the way he acts as a blitzer is similar to Devin Lloyd, but it's not nearly as fluid. It's not nearly as
It's
fluid.
more physical.
It's way more physical. It's way more stout at the point of attack, like you said.
Smash mouth.
Yes, smash mouth football. But you can see some technical ability with that hand use there. He also it's kind of like a wide receiver stem. The way he stems this up, he's going to Linderbaum's right and gets Linderbaum to set to the right. And right as that happens, he pulls the little arm over Olay move on him and throws him right by him. And he gets to the quarterback, gets a hit here. So really good play in blitz. And this is not the only time that he does this. Like he really is an effective blitzer, but it's tough because again, it's one of those areas. Are the Bills even going to use this? Because this is something that I guess I would put as one of his strengths, but would the Bills be able to tap into this or find a way to make this fit into their scheme and maybe dial up more linebacker blitzes? So that's something that I definitely have to question, but I like the ability, and it's definitely not, it's not like the best part of his game, but it's a good part of his game. So you don't want to leave it behind.
1,000%. Almost similar to Dean. Like you want to make sure if you have a guy who's a plus matchup in an area, you want to be able to use that plus matchup. And the big thing for me, you hit this on the head in a lot of ways. My favorite thing and trait for Chenal is his heavy and violent hands. And even on this, where he's basically swiping and using an over move, you can see how much Linderbaum jerks forward with those hands that hit him. Like even this isn't like an easy leverage position where you're like, you can extend, power through the hips into the arms and the hands and extend. He's basically kind of like swimming here. And the fact that right hand is so heavy that it causes a grown man at center to lurch forward like that, almost like he got punched in the stomach or is about to throw up, because that's how hard he got hit on his inside shoulder that he gets put like parallel to the ground. Like he almost puts Linderbaum on a 90-degree angle. Like look how much his head dips down. He's just got violent hands on impact, and it shows up whether he's coming from depth or, we kept making jokes about it. There's a lot of plays where he's lined up right on Linderbaum to start the play. And on the snap, he just gets those hands inside and he just jacks them up. Like Aaron Cromer would love Chenal's hand usage and how heavy and violent he would talk about it nonstop. He would play this clip and just say hands over and over again. But yeah, this is where you want to use him. Now, are you comfortable enough with what he does in coverage to be able to consider somebody like this? I think we picked him more because he's getting a lot of love and burn on social media, and a lot of people are talking about him. And so I think we covered him more from a prospect level than necessarily a fit level, but some of the things he does are very, very intriguing. And again, his coverage, it's not a plus thing, but it's sufficient to the point where he's not a liability.
Exactly. Exactly. So it wouldn't shock me if the Bills took him for like that hedge your bets kind of thing, but I agree there are guys that are better fits.
Mhm.
There are 100% guys that are better fits, but Mike linebackers, guys that fit Mike linebacker are few and far between in this draft. In my opinion, there aren't a lot. Michael,
Hands.
definitely a
It's
fan of the
hard to be a
show.
Mike linebacker.
Yeah,
People.
oh
I feel
yeah.
like people just. It's hard. You're in the middle. You're in constant conflict, especially nowadays where teams are so pass happy, but then you're also trying to account for the run. And you're trying to use light boxes, and there's all this cyclical nature of football. Like you're constantly in the combat zone, in the
Mm-hmm.
conflict area as a middle linebacker in general. Like we talked about Milano, Edmunds, Taron Johnson. Even though Taron Johnson's a nickel, we know he kind of plays as a linebacker. Joke,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you're in constant conflict. It's a hard position to grasp, and it's not just because we're trying to make excuses for Tremaine Edmunds. It's a hard position to play in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. So this is the last one for Leo Chenal, and it's his run fill ability. I love what
Mhm.
he does in the run game. This is probably the best part of his game, and you can see him. Not only does he force a fumble on this play, but the way he takes on this offensive tackle here is next level stuff. You can see
Got the
how
long arm.
willing he is. Yeah, and he was. I mentioned early. He's got the shortest arms of any of the guys we're breaking down tonight. He's
Yeah,
got the
that's fair.
shortest arms of any of
It's
them,
funny because
but
he's
he's
one of
so
those dudes.
powerful, it doesn't matter.
He is, and he's also deceiving in college. He's one of those dudes who wears like the high shoulder pads, so it doesn't really cover his complete shoulder capsule, so it makes his arms
Uh-huh.
look longer. It's very deceiving. When I saw his arm length, I was like, "What?" And then I went back. I was like, "It's the shoulder pads, you bastard."
He got me.
He did get me. I thought his arms were longer.
But this is something I really love to see because this is something a lot of people want to see better stuff from Edmunds because he has long arms. He should be able to take on these blocks and use that long arm to go ahead and make a play. But he's
Mm.
so willing to meet that blocker and meet him head on, show that power at the point of attack, keep his head and his eyes on the ball, and just keep the guy at an arm's length and then go ahead and make a play on the ball so much so that he goes ahead and he takes the ball out of Kyron Williams' hands. And he didn't come up with the ball, but I mean, it's really a great play from every portion of stopping the run. He finds his guy, he finds his hole to fill,
Mm.
he finds his guy to go and meet head on to make sure that he's not being aggressed or oppressed, I guess. He's being the aggressor, and then he's going ahead and making the play. But I really love how patient he is. I'll get it right here. How patient he is to fill this gap. He's just kind of shuffling along with this outside zone, making sure that he's staying in the right spot. But then once he has to make a move, he's the aggressor. And he gets that strength at the point of attack, one of his biggest strengths, in my opinion, and then go ahead, make that play. So I really like this run fill by him. And this is not something that's few and far between in his tape. This is something that happens a lot.
Yes, and when you've got a defense that wants to play with light boxes, you need linebackers who can come from depth and make plays against linemen who can get to the second level, whether it's a guard, whether it's a tackle. And that's why I think his tape is so encouraging for the next level for him, because he's just so comfortable taking on blockers in a variety of ways and winning. I posted this clip a couple nights ago on Twitter. If you go in slow-mo, I'll show you my favorite part. So keep going, keep going. He makes the contact. Stop right there. He has his right hand on the other Notre Dame player. He's using his long arm on the blocker. And I put the caption like, "This is how you fit the run. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing if you're the running back?" You're like, "Oh, dude, like, where do I go?" And you also
There's
can't cut
nowhere.
back. Really nice play. 57 Jack Sanborn coming around and filling the gap to the left there of
Right here.
Chenal. Yep, boom. You see his little head there. He's hiding. And then you got the edge being set there. So you got the force player there. And Chenal is one-on-one perfect. He's completely filled the gap. He is controlling his man. And then again, the play on the ball, right? Like ball skills. So a lot of people think it's interceptions and pass breakups. It's also the ability to force fumbles, right? The hand-eye coordination to recognize like, this might be an opportunity for me. Boom, bang. And then he does it with one arm. This isn't an impact. This isn't a two-hand rip. He's using his left arm to fend off a huge human being and then using his right arm to rip the football from the two hands of a pretty strong running back in Kyron Williams. Like, that's impact level play. And to do it against the run is still important in today's NFL. But again, especially when you play with light boxes, because you're not always going to be protected. You're going to have to take on guards and tackles, whether you're working against double teams, whether you're working against zone, whether you're working against gap. You got to be able to take those guys on, and especially in zone runs, right? The linemen are already in movement. They're already in motion. They got momentum coming your way. Chenal stops that momentum. Boom, pop. You see the violence. You see the hands, the extension, rip again, all because of that hand strength and that functional physicality that he has. I could watch him fit the run and attack the line of scrimmage like all day. Like as much as I love Dean and his athleticism and that clip before, I could watch this for forever because fitting the run is just, it's a really beautiful thing, and it's not understood by a lot of people. There's a science to it, and he executes that science.
It's a very nuanced art, and he has a big handful of stuff in his bag for this specific trait. I failed to mention how I feel like navigating the trash and getting skinny through blocks and stuff. I felt like that was one of his other areas.
Yes,
of strength.
he sifts through traffic very well. I was going to mention
really
that as we
well.
wrapped up. He reads the run blocks and he sifts through traffic. Yeah, he keeps clean.
Yeah, so I like his game from the run fill perspective, and I think that's really encouraging, especially for a defense that a lot of people want to see get better in run defense. So I think he fits in that regard, but it still leaves that coverage box kind of like half checked, where it's like, oh, there's potential here, but can we really rely on this? And do we want to rely on this in 2022 when we're Super Bowl betting odds favorites right now? So that's kind
exactly
of
the point.
What's
that floor look like compared to the ceiling? What level of production or sustainability do you get? And as we go to our fourth guy in this episode, we're also going to touch on Chad Muma briefly. I know a lot of people are clamoring for him in the chat, or kind of one person in particular. But you mentioned that word potential, and I think that is where Mr. Quay Walker comes in at 6'3.5", 240 pounds, long arms. The Georgia defense was unreal this past year, but the fact that the Georgia linebacking core is Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, and Channing Tindall, who, there's a decent chance that all three are gone by the end of the third round. Like the fact that they could have three linebackers go, like that kicks me back to, I think they all played together, even though when they were young. That kicks me back to the USC linebackers with Mauluga, Brian Cushing, and Clay Matthews. And I think they all went. Yeah. And I think Cushing was like the baby out of it. And then he played as a freshman or early sophomore. They were just so stacked. And that's what's tough when looking at film, right? Because you've got games where like Georgia's up by so much, and it's like, okay, take these guys out. Or they rotate so much based on situation. So you'll go, Nakobe Dean was almost everybody's hands down linebacker one throughout the year. There were drives where he'd be off the field for an entire drive because they'd be like, all right, we'll put in, Channing and Quay, or Quay would come off. Okay, we'll put in Channing and Nakobe, or Channing comes off, and the main functional starters were Quay and Dean, but they do so much gamesmanship up front, all the way up to their defensive line. The fact that you can take off Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Trayvon Walker, all guys who could be first-round picks this year. The fact that you can take them off and you don't really notice the drop-off in production. This defense was wild. But again, this one, I think, you and I DM'd about this earlier. You said the more you watch Quay Walker, the more you like him. He's a very intriguing one for me because out of everybody we're looking at tonight, right? And granted, there's so many linebackers, but I'm looking from like an early or a kind of later-ish pick, like a later day 2 or a later day 3, something like that. Although I do think
I think he's creeping up boards right now.
I do too. And now, like, my initial thought was he was a third round guy. I think he could go in the second potentially, but I hate doing this actually, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say, because I was going to say Devin Lloyd light, but it's not that, and I hate making those kind of comps. I think Devin Lloyd is that ideal fit earlier in like day 1, day 2. I think Quay Walker is a really fun fit if you're looking at like the back end of day 2, or if he was going to be like early. No, he was never going to be early day 3. I don't think he was going to go 4th round, but you're looking at day 2, 2nd round, 3rd round. He's got length, he's got size, he's got athleticism, he's got fluidity, a really intriguing prospect.
I think Quay Walker is your Devin Lloyd value proposition.
Good way to put it.
Everything you'd be getting from Devin Lloyd, but he's someone you could get with less draft capital. And I think because of that, I'm falling in love with him. Like his tape, yeah, it's not as splashy as Devin Lloyd's, but it checks all the same boxes. Like, I mean, just about every single box is checked the same way. Maybe he's not as fluid and graceful as Devin Lloyd, but I mean, he still has that blitz production. Not in a way where Devin Lloyd can rush off the edge like so effectively and seemingly have a pass rush plan and stuff like that, but he can blitz still, and he can still be productive from that scheme. And the way he fits the run and how patient he is with staying in his run fills, I really like it. I can't get enough of how he feels for the run. I really love how gap disciplined he is. That was the thing I kept coming away from. His ability to navigate trash and fit the run I loved it. I really loved it.
He's violent at the point of attack. I'd like to see that
Yeah,
same kind of violence when taking on blocks consistently and stacking and shedding. And it's funny, that the Georgia linebackers we talked about, he's the one Georgia linebacker, not Tyndall, not Nakobe Dean. It was Quay Walker who was the pattern matching kind of guy, both on vertical routes, both on hitch routes. You'll see him carry some tight ends on posts, he'll pattern match and get underneath a receiver on a deep over. He's that guy doing that, and he does it with smooth, functional ability. And he brings the wood when he hits. Like, he's forceful, he's violent at the point of attack, and he's big, but it's a compact frame. He's not as lanky or as long as Devin Lloyd, or maybe it doesn't seem that way because he's thicker. Like, dude is a force coming forward and in coverage, and at the contact point, it's really a beautiful thing to watch. And this first play is him against the run, and this is what you see. Like, so you see him highlighted there again at that middle linebacker position, and you see him read and take his time. You see the motion man come through,
so
and you
patient.
See exactly patient. And what's nice is you see that patient and that pace, right? Read what's going on, diagnose, read, react. Okay,
like sitting in that run gap, it's just sitting there and taking it away.
Because what does he know, right? He knows where the fits are of his defenders, so he's not going to over pursue this because he's got Wyatt, number 95. He's got Tyndall, number 41. He sees the edges set already. So what's he going to do? He's just going to sit. He's not going to over pursue, but then this is the key, right? He sits in that hole. Watch him get low, bring his hips, and single-handedly stop. He's not moving forward, really. He's almost stationary. The running back is bursting into him, and Quay Walker just envelops him, shuts him down. It's like the running back ran into a wall.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't see that. I never saw that when I watched this. I was so obsessed with the run fit.
Which is also beautiful.
He was a wall, though. You're right. Like, he had no momentum into this. It was literally just all leverage. It was literally just leverage based. He got low man wins, and he played that leverage game, and just stopped him like a brick wall.
Which also isn't a thing to do, right? Low man wins. It might not be easy for a 6. He's 6'3" and a half, but like,
so he just got low for him, like relative to his size, he got lower.
But that's unreal. Like, he has that bend. He doesn't have that stiffness. Like, he's got size, but he can drop. You can see the sink in his hips when he lines up pre-snap. You can see it when he drops in coverage, and you can see it here as he explodes through that fluidity, his ability to roll his hips and carry through. He's a very fluid athlete, and this one shows, I think, some of that headiness, like you said, the patience to just read, diagnose, fill the gap, and then explode on contact and stop a running back dead in his tracks. And again, being able to diagnose and sift and read and react is very important in any defense, but especially when the Bills play with a light box. And if you notice here, what is Georgia playing with here? Granted, Lewisine comes down. There's a 6-man box there. Georgia's playing with a light box. And Quay Walker is reading and reacting in a light box. And that's what you have to do in the Buffalo Bills defense. Seam comes down almost a la who? A Jordan Poyer or a Micah Hyde. You see the slot corner come off the edge almost like who? A Taron Johnson. This is a potential Buffalo Bills snap given the look and the execution from Quay Walker and the Georgia defense.
I know people are going to hate this, but every time I watched Quay Walker, I was like, I just love how he's run filling. It reminds me so much of Tremaine Edmunds. And
I don't know if people are going to take that as a compliment or
No, they're going to
a
take it
negative.
as a negative, and
Yeah.
it really shouldn't be, because a lot of what Tremaine Edmunds does is patience. It is based on patience and occupying run gaps to make sure that other guys are making plays. But on that last play, you saw he was patient, and because he was patient, he was awarded with the tackle because everyone else was in their run gap there, run gap here, run gap. Like, everyone's filling their run gap, and it just gets fed back to him because he was patient enough to wait for the play to get to him. So I kept
Controlled
getting back
aggression.
to that. I kept getting, controlled aggression is a good way to put it. And I think that's why people want Tremaine to be less controlled, a little
Yeah,
bit more
just be aggressive.
Milano-esque.
Yeah,
But
good call. But
yeah,
you
I don't
can't have
know.
two dudes doing that. You can't
You
have two people
can't.
flying all over the
It
field. You have
opens
to
up holes everywhere.
correct. Then you get all of a sudden Indianapolis Colts vibes when you've got somebody on the defensive line playing out of their shoes and you're opening up holes that you could drive a bus through. Not to run Bettis, I mean like an actual bus. This is the coverage snap, the pattern matching snap, and it ends with a bang. I love this one because, again, controlled aggression. You'll see the physicality at the end, but this is, again, very similar to the Devin Lloyd clip we saw earlier. Again, we're looking for guys who can pattern match. We're looking for guys who can emulate what the Buffalo Bills do in their defense, right? It's not just about like, this linebacker made a bunch of plays, the Bills should take him. Cool. Is he making plays that the Bills would want to have him make? Because if he can't function in that world, he ain't going to come. Nice from Quay Walker here. If you can go ahead and let it run, you'll see him, again, as we continue to see, boom, has his man, locks him up, carries him to the sideline, and detonates on the quarterback.
His man.
And again, what do we see with the Nakobe Dean ones, right? What do you see? Guys coming off the sideline to be like, oh, and his teammates wanting to dap him up because of that play. We see, time and time again. This is a part of the reason why I also picked it, right? Today's NFL, quarterbacks are able to get off script. The top quarterbacks in the league are all able to function and make plays out of the pocket and off script. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, still even to a degree when he's not hurt. This is a play. Patrick Mahomes, you didn't contain him? Okay, he's out. Look how Quay stays on his man, and then when he leaves his man, he doesn't just make a hit. He unloads. Watch. And look at the sideline. Look at the sideline. You know why? Because they heard it, they saw it, and everybody's coming off the field.
Look at 94. He is loving it.
That's a big boy play at the end, but also a big boy play in coverage. Look how all over his man he is. There's nowhere to go. Yeah. He's got his hands on him, but he's not grabby. He's not clutchy. He's just guiding. He's completely in control. He's in phase. He's in complete control of this rep from beginning to end, from front to back. Reads it, boom, he's all over it. And he's using his hands to keep control of his man, but also to use as a landmark while he watches the quarterback escape.
Right.
Because he can't leave his man, because that's an easy completion. So you got to be able to, you know what? Okay, what's the lesser of two evils? All right, I got to stay on my man, but if the quarterback comes to me, I'm going to punish him. Okay, the quarterback's coming to me, punish him. Throw my man, punish him. I may like the last one a little more than this one, but this one is nuts.
I definitely like the last one more than this one, but I like the
I also like how he chucks his man disrespectfully.
That's literally what I was going to get to. It's just like he's so smart with how he's playing this. It's very patient. It's that controlled aggression, like you're saying, but like he controls his man at the top of the route. Not too grabby, but grabby enough to stay connected to his guy. And then, like you said, he's not grabbing here, but he has his hand on his guy as a landmark so he can keep his eyes on the quarterback. But then you get over here and he sees that the quarterback's coming. He's still on his man, but once that comes, just shucks his man out of the way and he makes the play. I love this play, not nearly as much as that run, Phil, but I mean, it's just, there's so many levels to this and how he's playing this from a heady standpoint and then a physicality standpoint as he just works his way through the quarterback. It's a really great play.
He chucks his man because he knows the quarterback has reached the point of no return, so he's not throwing it anymore. So he throws the man that he's been covering this whole time. He just, okay, I don't need you anymore. Bang. He pushes him out of the way, and then bang. and then he feels it. He gets up. He's feeling himself a little bit. Look at him. Disengage, get low, drive. Again, and some people might say, well, it's against a quarterback. So what? You had a dude running full speed against a stationary linebacker. So he drops the shoulder, explodes through, bang. This one is very similar. But what's nice about this one, we see this again all the time, especially against the Chiefs. We see these quarterbacks who break contain and are able to get out. What do? So you see Quay Walker dropping into coverage. Oh, I love this. He reads what's going on. So comes out of coverage. He sees the tight end coming across the middle, but he still knows what his responsibility is. So he's splitting the high-low there, and then he sees the quarterback take off, right? So now here's where you have to read, react, click, close, detonate. And if you show it from the end zone angle, I really want to see it on the end zone angle, because this is where you'll see the angle that he takes and then just the shoulder that puts this QB down. Bang! Into the dirt. Done. Hard. Like, again, punishment, controlled aggression, violence. You want to make that quarterback hit legitimate. You want to make the QB feel that. And, I don't know. Pop says in the NFL, you hit a QB that hard, flag. This is clean all day.
Yeah.
This is shoulder to shoulder.
But I get what he's saying.
It's fair because it's a hard hit. This is shoulder to shoulder. He's not dropping the head. You can even see he loads up and turns his head to make sure he's not leading with his head. And then he goes shoulder to shoulder. This is, again, controlled aggression. I'm really starting to like that moniker for Quay Walker here. But again, this is a very realistic NFL snap. You've dropped into coverage, and the quarterback, who can do things like NFL quarterbacks can do, especially the elite ones.
Yeah, this is a McCaffrey, is it not?
Oh, quarterback?
Yeah, I think this is the McCaffrey brother.
No, I think it's McNamara. Oh, maybe
McNamara's 12.
Oh, that's right, McNamara. I don't think it's. I forget what his name is. Maybe it's not. I just like how he unloads on him, just to see him, bang, like dropping coverage. Oh, okay, cool. Let me come up, make a play. Like, that's an NFL level play, because you have to read. Oh, Giles says controlled aggression is the new show name. That'd be funny. I would like that. That could be really cool. Again, NFL plays that translate. You're not just looking for things that are good or highlight worthy. You're looking for things that translate. You're going to see running quarterbacks. Now, maybe that quarterback pulls up early and he slides. McCarthy, thank you. I was hoping somebody would do it. It's McCarthy. It was driving me nuts. And then you were like, McNamara's 12, and I was like, I know it's a Mac, but it's not McCaffrey. It's some kind of Mac, McCarthy. If you're in the NFL, quarterback probably pulls up here, but again, that's fine, because he's probably going to pull up at the 40, which means he's going to get about 6 yards less than he gets on this play. And you know why? Because he doesn't want to take that hit, because he's got a linebacker closing on him who isn't just going to tag him down. He's going to put him down. And again, these aren't one-offs. These aren't just highlights. These are plays that happen with regularity, and why he's a very, very, very intriguing guy who, honestly, I want running back, not in this order, but running back, wide receiver, interior offensive line, corner in the first 4 rounds. If they came away with Quay Walker in one, I wouldn't be distraught. I think he's fantastic. I really like his game.
Would you get to the point, though, where you'd be okay with it in the first 4 if Edmunds is still on the team?
Oh, no. The value is not there.
It's only if Edmunds is out of the plans.
Has to be gone. I mean, but again, that's why, like what I said, like I wouldn't be distraught. He's a really fun prospect, in the same way that if Edmunds was gone and the Bills took Nakobe Dean, I wouldn't love the scheme fit, but I'd be like, okay, he's a really good football player. You just added a really good football player to your team. Like, again, that's what it is for Quay Walker. Like, is the value there? No. Did you add a good football player with a lot of upside? Sure. And also, maybe, again, I don't know, if you're playing the long con, which we know the Bills like to do, what if it's like we are going to take him in the second round because Tremaine Edmunds isn't coming back, and we want to have this guy ready, locked, and loaded for next year? Again, I don't think that's in the realm of possibility right now, and the value isn't there, but he's a really fun and intriguing guy. Any last thoughts on Quay? And then before we touch on Chad Muma briefly.
No, I love the value proposition on, if we do move on from Edmunds and you don't want to spend that first rounder on a Devin Lloyd. I love the idea of rolling around at 57 with Quay Walker, or I don't know, maybe he does drop to 89. I don't see it as likely that he drops to 89, but I like the value proposition of finding a guy not in round 1 at a position of lower value. fiscally lower value, high value on the field. But Quay
Mm.
Walker checks a lot of those boxes in terms of skill set and scheme fit for the Buffalo Bills. So I really like the player. The more I watch of him, the more I like him. So yeah.
What about we change the banner here? We're going to touch on him briefly as we wind down here. Don't have film because it's very limited for this man. But Mr. Chad Muma, I know there's a couple people in the chat who are banging the drum absolutely for Chad Muma. I know you and I both watched some stuff of him, as did Eric. We watched his game tape against Air Force, who was a very run-heavy team. But what are your initial thoughts on Muma? Because there's some people that really think he could potentially be linebacker one, whether it's the highlights they're seeing, whether it's the fact that he went to Wyoming. What are your thoughts there on Mr. Chad Muma?
I mean, firstly, I want more tape on Muma. I was very intrigued by that first game, but I just have too many questions right now to really give like a holistic evaluation on him. What I have right now is just I love the energy that he plays with. I like his ability to navigate through the trash and get skinny through gaps to make plays, but it's really hard to evaluate what he does in run fill and run fit situations when you're playing against triple option offense. It's just like you're meant to be wrong. If you shoot for the quarterback, the running back has the ball. I can't say that he made the wrong decision because you're playing a triple option offense. You're meant to be wrong. So it's really tough from that regard. But when I was watching his tape, I was just trying my best to trait hunt and not really focus on his processing abilities. But I did like the traits that I saw from him. So right now I'm left in a purgatory with Muma where it's like, I like the traits, but I need to get these other boxes checked out. So that's kind of my thing with Muma right now.
We'll be having some more tape on Muma coming forward as we move closer towards the draft, which is about 3 weeks away. But, as right now for me, I really like his quick feet. I think he has good lateral agility. You see the functional athleticism time and time again. I do want to see more deeper coverage action. I want to see what he looks like in pattern matching capability. Because again, it's not about speed. It's not about athleticism. Those things help, but can you function in that world? I don't care how good of a spot drop coverage linebacker you are. Can you pattern match? Can you carry the number 3 wide receiver vertical? Can you carry the tight end? Can you carry a variety of things going across the middle, going deep in a variety of ways? And I think he's got some things that you like. Again, you mentioned the trait hunting piece. I think he's got the potential to again tick some boxes. I'm not going to make a concrete decision on him now because I've only watched one game, and it was, of course, it had to be against Air Force, who ran the ball like 55 times and passed it 11. But even that was interesting, right? To see his processing ability, and I think that key with Air Force is interesting because their whole offense is a Jedi mind trick designed to make you fail and make you wrong, and he did fail. Right. He did make some wrong decisions at times, but sometimes you got to tip your hat. Like we say all the time, you got to tip your hat to the offense because boom, you got him. But he missed big time on some reads and opened up. I understand you really like Wyoming 307, Wyoming Pride, but to say he covers better than any other linebacker mentioned, I think is a very bold statement. Like Devin Lloyd has some really crazy good pattern matching tape, but to each their own, regardless. This has been, I think, a very fun episode, Kendall, for you and I, even though, I'm going to throw up the Toodles you guys banner that I throw up on this guy's coverage, but you know what? I'm throwing it up on here because we got to figure out a way to say goodbye because we're starting to wind down here and say goodbye. I think, again, this is a very interesting topic. Tremaine Edmunds is a very polarizing guy. I think a lot of the guys we laid out are based on the potential replacing of Tremaine Edmunds. If he's staying, I think you see a guy later on day 3, if you see a guy at all, given the people they already have on the roster. But nonetheless, it's a position we have to cover. And I also know, there were some other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns in the chat. Kendall and I are very active on the old Twitter. I'll actually remove the banner right now so you guys can see. Find me on Twitter at @pro__ant. Find Kendall at Mersky Kendall. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns about somebody we didn't get to. I know Joel asked about Brandon Smith from Penn State. Anybody you got, at us, ask us. We've watched a lot more tape than guys that we've talked about tonight, but we can only fit so many guys into an episode. So get at us on Twitter, and we'll answer any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns that you have. Kendall's on the West Coast. I'm on the East, which means you can ask questions as late as you want, and one of us is probably going to answer them, if not both. I stay up very late, and then Kendall's on the West Coast, so we got you covered in a lot of ways. We appreciate everybody for riding with us on this episode tonight. Please drop a like on your way out, or if you're just getting here, on your way in. If you're watching later, listening later, please rate and review and subscribe. Drop a like as well. It's tremendously important. Thank you to everybody who rode with us live on this episode. Thank you to anybody who's listening or watching later on this episode. Please tell all your family, friends, and loved ones about how awesome the Cover One Film Room is. And if you think it's all awful, that's fine. Tell your enemies, and maybe they'll like it. You never know. A like's a like, and a view's a view. We appreciate you guys. Hope you and your family and friends and loved ones all stay safe and are doing well. Appreciate all the kind words in the chat and all the likes. Thank you guys very much. We will see you next week in the Cover One Film Room. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.